Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Let's get right to it. So, I finished the first chapter. Well, not the first chapter, but the first part of the Jailblazers book. I was reading the end of the Rick Adelman years on up to the PJ Carlesimo years, and now I'm at the Mike Dunleavy years. What I do is I don't take notes while I'm reading the book. I want to enjoy reading the book. Then after I read a certain part, then I'll go back and read it again and make notes. So, okay. So in 1994, the Jailblazers didn't exist. Okay. But I would say that it was born in 1994, but just a quick little run through. The book did bring up the 77 Trailblazers title run, and it brought up the trip to the 1990 finals and the trip to the 1992 NBA finals. And they did mention that they acquired Rod Strickland in free agency in the summer of 1992. Okay. I forgot, man. My mouth gets real dry. Man. I forgot, man. My mouth gets real dry when I talk. Anyway. So, so Rod Strickland was acquired by the Portland Trailblazers in free agency in the summer of 1992. Okay. And the Trailblazers averaged nearly 60 wins, 59 in 1990, 63 in 1991, 57 in 1992. Okay. So they were averaging 60 wins over the past three seasons. But in 1993, they fell to 51 and 31. Clyde Drexler missed 33 games that year. They still went 51 and 31 in 1993. But they lost to the San Antonio Spurs 3-1 in the first round of the playoffs, okay? And so 1994, they fell, they dipped a little bit lower by, I believe they were 47-35 or 45-37 or something like that. But they lost to the Rockets 3-1 in the first round. And so I believe that the Jailblazers were born in the summer of 1994 because of these particular moves. Rick Adelman was fired. Jeff Petrie resigned. Okay. And they hired PJ Carlesimo as head coach. Okay. And you got to remember, Portland still had the core of that team that went to the finals in 1990-92. They still had Drexler. They still had Kersey, Porter, Buck. Um, Mark Bryant was on there too. Yeah, Mark Bryant was there. I think I already mentioned Jerome Hersey, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so in 1994, Adelman was fired. Um, and Rod Strickland said Rick Adelman was one of his favorite coaches to play for. Okay. And so Rod Strickland said he shed tears when Adelman told him that he was being fired because he said Adelman was the one who believed in him, gave him confidence and whatnot. And so they bring in PJ Carlesimo. He hires Dick Harder as an assistant, who he used to be assistant to Pat Riley, used to coach the Hornets, and Johnny Davis, the Trailblazer, who was on the 77 squad. That beat Philadelphia for the NBA championship. And then Bob Whitsitt came in a short time later. Ironically, he was still under contract with the Seattle Supersonics, believe it or not. And he had issues with Barry Ackerley in Seattle. It was shortly after Bob Whitsitt arrived that Clyde Drexler stated that he wanted out. Clyde Drexler liked PJ Carlesimo, but he didn't agree with the direction of the franchise. The direction of the franchise was going. So in 1995, okay, you still had the core: Porter, Drexler, Kersey, Buck, Mark Bryant, who was a reserve, but no, Mark Bryant was still there, and so they still had the core intact, but the core was surrounded by Harvey Grant, James Washington. I mean, not James Washington, but James Robinson. Harvey Grant, James Washington again. James Robinson, Rod Strickland, and I forgot to mention Cliff Robinson, who was a part of that core that went to the finals in the early 90s. Okay, yeah. So the core was surrounded by Rod Strickland. I would say he was pretty good. He was pretty good, but other than that, you had guys like Harvey Grant, James Robinson. I remember Aaron McKee was there. Aaron McKee came to the Blazers in the 94 draft. Yeah. And so, you replace a person like Kevin Duckworth, who could score. Who did they replace Kevin Duckworth with? Who did they replace Kevin Duckworth with? Oh, Harvey Grant. Yeah, the Harvey Grant trade. Yeah, the Kevin Duckworth Harvey Grant trade. Yeah. So, I said Clyde Drexler didn't agree with the direction of the franchise. The lack of loyalty was something Drexler had an issue with. He watched he watched the players and the assistant coaches, the coaches that were there. They got kicked out. John Wetzel, Jack Shallow, who are Rick Adelman's assistants. General Manager Wayne Cooper, the former Trailblazer, who was there for the finals appearances 1990-92 as a player. Trainer Mike Sheminsky, Director Bob Cook, Equipment Manager Rob Sobrowski, Media Relations Director John Lashway. See. Then Paul Allen and Brett Cody came into the picture along with Bob Whitsitt. And Drexler was traded midway through the 95 season. PJ Carlesimo was disappointed about that. Rod Strickland missed 24 games with a contract dispute. This is before he joined Portland. He feuded with Coach Brown with Spurs. I mentioned he cried when Adelman was fired. So Strickland came off the bench behind Harry Porter his first 2 years, 1993 and 94. Then I believe Porter was moved to the six-man role, and Strickland in 1995 put up 19 points per game and nearly 9 assists per game. And 1996, almost 19 points per game and almost 10 assists per game, okay? Players recall their first training camp with P.J. Brown. I'm P.J. Brown. Good Lord. I'm messing up. Players recall their first training camp with P.J. Carlesimo. They said he got after guys hard. Players thought he overdid it, and at times his assistants, Dick Harder and Johnny Davis, agreed. And it's kind of ironic because PJ replaced Rick in Portland. Then Adelman gets fired in Golden State a few years later. Then he replaces Rick Adelman in Golden State. Go figure, right? And so there were the share of flare-ups among players off the court. Strickland and Cliff Robinson got charged with battery in 1993 after an altercation with a truck driver in the fast food parking lot. On March 31st, PJ kept Rod out of the lineup against the Sixers because he had not flown with the team. Apparently Rod had spent the night in New Jersey and didn't fly with the team, and he thought PJ would be good with that. Yeah, right. As a result, he only played four minutes that game, and he had a shouting match with PJ Carlesimo in the 86-85 loss to the Sixers. After the game, Rod Strickland said, "I don't like him. You can write that down. I don't like him when he first came. I don't like him now." Rod Strickland. And so down the stretch, they only finished 8-10 and finished 44-38. And they finished 44-38 and then got kicked out by Phoenix in the first round pretty easily. So in 1996, 11 different players made starts for the Trailblazers. Among them, 11 different players made starts for the Trailblazers. That season, D'Antonio Wingfield, who nobody remembers, unless you're just an NBA junkie like me. D'Antonio Wingfield was charged with assault of 2 officers. He played 2 seasons with the Trailblazers. And he played 2 seasons with the Trailblazers and then played another season, which he played 3 games, and then he was out of the league. D'Antonio used to play for Seattle before coming to Portland, okay? And so he had his share of he and Gary Trent got into a altercation in practice. Arvydas Sabonis did come in 1995. He was originally drafted in 1986. So before he came to Portland, he could run the court like a deer. He had moves of all sorts. He was agile. He was quick. For somebody who weighed 250 pounds, playing in the European leagues. I believe he played pro ball in Serbia, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Like I said, he was drafted in 1986 by Portland. But by the time he came to the Trailblazers for the 95-96 season, he was around 295. Okay. And so one of the things that Portland players, staff would notice is that Sabonis would sit by himself. He would eat by himself. But then Bama Medina of the Portland staff came and sat with him. Said Sabonis looked surprised when he came and sat with him. And that's when Arvidas began to loosen up, joke around, whatnot. And so 1996, PJ Carlesimo was a disciplinarian. So among the stuff that had happened, Cliff Robinson failed to show up for a shoot around. Ross Strickland was 45 minutes late to a Christmas practice. Then he was 30 minutes late to a New Year's practice. He got benched in the first quarter both times. It's in one of those games, he still had 22 points, 8 assists in a 101 92 victory over the Knicks. James Robinson and Cliff Robinson got into a post-practice fight. Ross Strickland was suspended indefinitely. At the time, he was averaging 19 points and 9.5 assists per game. And he missed 6 games. On March 5th, the Trailblazers were 26-34. Then they went on a hot streak. And they went 18-4 to finish at 44-38. And so they faced the Jazz in the first round. But people were picking the Blazers to upset the Utah Jazz. Probably because of what happened the previous year with the Rockets. Okay. The Utah Jazz lost to the defending champion Rockets in the first round in 95. Okay. So Jazz won the first 2. Portland came back, won the next 2. So it was reported that the players partied and they bought plane tickets to tropical sites because they thought the series was going to be short. Obviously that had an effect on the players in Game 5 because they lost 102-64. They lost 102-64 in Game 5 to Utah Jazz. Okay. And so, in the summer of 96, Buck Williams walked. After Buck Williams walked, which left Cliff Robinson as the only one. They also let Mark Bryant go to the Houston Rockets. In the previous summer, Terry Porter was in Minnesota. Then Jerome Kersey, they let him go to the expansion draft. So by the 1997 season, it was only Cliff Robinson who remained from the Trailblazers. The Trailblazers teams of the early 90s. So in the summer of 96, they let Buck Williams walk. He went to the New York Knicks and signed a 3-year deal with the Knicks. And Ross Strickland wanted to be traded. He stated that several times during the season. So Portland put together a deal, Strickland and Harvey Grant for Rasheed Wallace and Mitchell Butler. Rasheed Wallace grew up in Philadelphia. He hardly knew his dad. His grandfather and his mom raised him. He played with future Trailblazer teammate Aaron McKee. He did have a temper issue. Okay. Played two years for Dean Smith. Was taken 4th overall in 1995. And during his rookie season, he ranked 12th among rookies in scoring, 11.7, 8th in rebounds, 4.7. Then he broke his thumb, missed the final 15 games of the season. So in his rookie season, he was assessed 22 technicals, and he had 8 technicals in preseason. Okay. He was late for practice in preseason, and he also threw a ball at Luke Longley, okay, during the preseason. He was sued for misdemeanor assault. He got charged with misdemeanor assault. He was sued by a North Carolina daycare. So, yeah. These are the type of guys that Bob Whitsitt would sign, okay? They also signed Kenny Anderson to a 7-year deal. They traded James Robinson and Bill Curley and a future first to the Wolves for J.R. Ryder. The Blazers also absorbed the $16 million that the Timberwolves owed to Isaiah Ryder. Talented but troubled. Averaged 16.5 points a game his rookie year in Minnesota. Made the all-rookie team. Won the dunk contest between the legs. So in 1995, he averaged 20.4 points per her game. And then in 1996, he was close to 20 points per her game, okay? He grew up in Alameda, California. Went to Encino High. How do I pronounce that? Encino High. Was a top school scorer as a junior. He was academically ineligible, so he had to go to a junior college, Allen County Junior College, in Iola, Kansas. Okay. And okay, there we go. Yeah. So then went to another junior college, Antelope Valley Junior College of North LA. Then he ended up at UNLV, helped UNLV to a 26-2 record, but NCAA infractions. His senior year, 1993, he averaged 29.1 points. Still had academic issues. There was talk of a student helping Ryder. There was a student who took J.R. Ryder's test for him. There was talk of that. Nonetheless, the Timberwolves took him. Signed for $26.5 million over 7 years. So he signs his contract and he shows up late for his first practice. Go figure. Imagine the impression that makes on a coach when you show up late for your first practice. Imagine the impression that makes on guys like Christian Laettner, guys like Michael Williams, who were on that roster. Imagine the impression that it makes on those guys. Okay. So he showed up late for his first practice. JR claimed that he was a smart guy. He knew right from wrong. And he said, maybe sometimes I'm just late or I'm just lazy. I think it's safe to say he was both. Okay. So he kicked a woman in the back during an appearance at the Mall of America in Minnesota. He kicked a woman in the back. He settled for $100K. His second season, he racked up $100,000 in fines. He lost salary for missing flights missing practices, and feuded with Coach Bill Blair. I know at one time he said, I know people who can take you out. Let me say that again. I know people who can take you out, if you know what that means. He was ejected by Ken Mauer. He missed a flight to Washington. And so that was J.R. Ryder's time in Minnesota. And I bet, and if I was a betting man, I would say Christian Laettner never liked him. I would say Kevin Garnett never liked him. I would say Flip Saunders, who coached him, and Flip Saunders, who got hired in 1996 as head coach, never liked him. That was pretty much J.R. Ryder's time in Minnesota. P.J. Carlesimo never wanted Ryder. He was overruled by Bob Whitsitt. What else is new? They also drafted Jermaine O'Neal. I didn't know this about Jermaine O'Neal. He actually got caught in bed with his 15-year-old girlfriend. Got charged with having sex with a minor. He did community service and had it expunged from his record. Okay. And so there was talk that J.R. Ryder said he would be turning over a new leaf. Okay. Well, the stuff I read about J.R. Ryder's time in Portland were too numerous to name. Okay. So I'm going to just keep it short. Okay. This is what defied J.R. Ryder's time in Portland: benchings, arrests, drug busts, missed flights, showing up late or not showing up at all to practice, fights with P.J. Carlesimo, and multiple suspensions. Okay, that was J.R. Ryder's time in Portland. Mitchell Butler, who they traded for, said the difference between the players of the old school and the players of the new school to today. Okay, and Mitchell Butler said 10 to 15 years ago, guys played for the love of the game. Now, today, there are so many distractions. Players have big money, and it doesn't seem like a big concern. Wasn't Mitchell? So Mitchell Butler was echoing back in 1997 what is happening in the NBA today. Okay. Clifford Robinson got suspended that season for cursing at PJ and assistant coach Elson Turner. After a game in Detroit, Doug Collins said about Bob Whitsitt and the Blazers organization. He said, "You have a GM who says to get to the next level, we have to take a chance on these guys. You're expected to coach them when in essence you have such a bad blend, you can't do as well." Okay. And so J.R. Ryder was suspended 7 times in 1998. Okay. J.R. Ryder was suspended 7 times in 1998. I'm still on 1990 talking about the 97 Trailblazers, but when Mike Dunleavy took over after P.J. Carlesimo, it was more of the same with Isaiah Ryder. Okay. And he got suspended 7 times in 1998. Okay. But after a 17-point victory over the Minnesota Timberwolves during the 97 season, the Blazers went on a 5-game losing streak. And their fifth straight loss came to no other than the Chicago Bulls, 88-84 at the Rose Garden. Michael Jordan scored 22 of his 28 in the fourth, including 18 points in the last 5.5 minutes. That's MJ for you. And the Bulls won their 8th straight. Then on February 16th, they lost to the Bulls again, 116-89 at the United Center. MJ had 30 of his 37 in the first half. Okay. So in February, they were 29-28. But then all of a sudden, they went on a winning streak and were 40-28 and finished the season at 49-33. Then they lost to the Lakers in the first round. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. PJ Carlesimo gets fired, but they say 97. So let me just end by saying this, okay? The Jailblazers were born in the summer of 94 when they got rid of the old guard, okay? And they get rid of the old guard and they bring in a new guard, okay? So, and they say that 1996-97 season was the year that the Jailblazers were born. The Jailblazers came out of the womb, okay? And so veterans talked about it. Buck Williams said, Buck Williams knew this was the type of direction that they were going, okay? So Buck Williams saw it. Clyde Drexler saw it. Terry Porter probably saw it. Jerome Kersey saw it. At the end of the 97 season, they did not re-sign Cliff Robinson. And so yeah. They got rid of the old guard in a few years, okay? It's one thing to self-destruct on the basketball court, okay? It's one thing to lose your cool on the basketball court because the Blazers were known to self-destruct, arguing with the officials. Bill Laimbeer would got into their heads during the 1990 NBA Finals. So it's one thing to self-destruct, to lose your cool temper on the court, okay? But it's another thing when you start bringing in guys who have a bad reputation, not only on the court, but off the court as well. And you had guys like Duckworth, Porter, Buck, Jerome. These guys were excellent basketball players on the court, despite the fact they sometimes self-destructed, okay? But they were even better guys off the court as well, okay? Now, you kick out the old guard, who the city of Portland loved. Then you bring in the new guard, and you have fans who boo players like J.R. Ryder, who regularly got booed by Portland Trailblazer fans. He regularly got booed. And so you bring in those type of guys. The fans are likely going to have something to say about that, okay? Yeah, the fans are going to have something to say about that. And I'll just stop right there. All right. Thank you for watching another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. God bless you all. Peace out. God bless. See y'all on the next one. TunePocket.com